In the Wild West world of podcasting, there is one podcast that is authentic and genuine and continues to stand tall in its originality. Based on a passion for his guests, their work, and his love of podcasting, Derek Thomas and Monday Morning Critic Podcast get amazing, diverse, unique guests found nowhere else. The variety and quality are endless. There is something for everyone. Derek Thomas is the hero you deserve. He's a silent guardian, a watchful protector. Welcome to Monday Morning Critic Podcast. Here is Derek Thomas.
Hi, this is Laura San Giacomo, and you're listening to the Monday Morning Critic Podcast.
Perfect. So I have to say, I'm going to start this interview by saying I'm in love with your filmography, but I think I'm more in love with what you do out of movies, and that's not an IMDb. Your charitable work, your selflessness, all the work you've done around cerebral palsy. I have a cousin that has cerebral palsy, and it's very severe. I have two cousins. One is very severe, and it's a miracle in a sense, Laura, that his father, my uncle, is 81, and he's, I want to say the Mark who has it is 250 pounds. And at 81, my uncle is lifting him up. Like, I mean, it's like, we don't get it. Like, it's like this super strength at 81. And I'm sure there's tons of parents with stories like this, but it's just a marvel. He doesn't want to put him in any type of assisted living or home or whatever, because that's his buddy. He doesn't want to do it. Like, he cannot let his son go like that. So the work that I've seen you do, it just resonates. I'm just very appreciative of people that are selfless like you are.
That's a beautiful story that you told me. And I can say that I really appreciate it and I understand it from an insider perspective, because it is truly been a gift. It truly is a gift. Mm-hmm. And it's a multifaceted, complicated gift, but it is of strength. There's so much strength that we find in our bodies, our hearts, our minds. It sounds like I'm just saying pretty words, but it's really true.
No, you practice what you preach. This isn't like something to be said so people can hear you. I mean, your life is about your son Mason. You've been all about just inclusiveness in general. It's just like it's a very important thing to you, and it should be an important thing to you. It should be an important thing to everybody, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You know, and I feel some people kind of lose focus of that, right? Some people who, I feel like they get lost in their own little bubble, and they feel like there's nothing else outside of that bubble. Well, there are people outside of that bubble, and there's a lot of things going on outside of that bubble. So, welcome to life. I mean, probably a cheesy way of putting it, Laura, but it's true.
Mm-hmm. Like humanity, we are a very wide range of humanity, and to be able to be around. There was this one speaker that I heard years ago, and he happened to have certain limitations, and he said he said it really beautifully. When someone for whom the regular standards don't apply enters the room, everyone changes. And that's what I have seen in my son's life and also the lives of others, and that's what I tried to put my energy towards.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. And I've been dying to ask you this too. There's many actors that have this, but I was thinking in particular RJ Mitty from Breaking Bad, who has cerebral palsy. And he's like, the way, I'm not going to even try to phrase it the way he did, but he eloquently put, he's very proud of who he is and what he's done. It's just the way he was talking about it. It's like, and anybody who's seen Breaking Bad, he's just so wonderful at, it's just, he's just a great, I don't want to say spokesman, but he's not embarrassed of anything. He's not like, he is who he is. And I love that about him.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, we should all be so lucky, right?
Yeah. So thank you. Yeah, thank you for your work and it's a genuineness to it, right? Some people do charitable work and it's like maybe they're doing it for the right reasons, maybe not, but you are clearly in it for all the right reasons. So Laura, without being overly repetitive, thank you for that. Born in New Jersey, for those listening, wonderful career. I wanted to ask you about Carnegie Mellon. I've heard you in another interview. You said you auditioned the first time around, and I think you had to go. They declined, right? And you had to go another, like a junior college because you were declined from Carnegie Mellon. Is that, do I have that accurate?
Yeah, I was waitlisted the first year, and nobody declined entrance that year, and so then I re-auditioned the next year, and then I got in.
Were they wrong the first time around? Did you think you deserved that?
No, I don't think they were wrong.
No.
I think I needed a year to do some things and some growing up, and I was ready the second time to commit to that program and to the intensity of that program. And I think it was good just to have a year to understand what college is and be on my own and that whole thing.
Yeah, and I'm not making this about me. I kind of had I'm not an actor, but I had a similar thing where I didn't get to the college I wanted. I had to go to junior college. Basically, academically, they said you're not ready for this. So on my own, I had to go to junior college. I had to get my shit straight, and then I got back. Do you feel like Carnegie Mellon was worth the? I don't want to say sacrifice. I'm gonna go over the top, but was worth the hard work you put in to get back in there the second time around?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I was ready and committed, and had a newfound appreciation for where I would be going and what I would be doing. And I had a stronger sense of myself. And I think that they saw that the first time around. And just looking at myself, back on myself, I can see that. And the second time that I auditioned, I was like, this is who I am. And I am fully present. I'm not trying to I'm not a young person. I was a little bit young at that time. And so I just grew up a little bit more. And so I was ready for that challenge because it's a very intense program.
Yeah, it's a well respected. I mean, there's tons and tons of very talented actors that go through this program. So yeah, I mean, listening to you talk, it sounds like that year put things in perspective for you. I guess is a good way of saying it too. So there's a few things I want to ask you before we dive into this wonderful filmography. What do you think you've learned about acting that maybe Carnegie didn't teach you, that Carnegie Mellon didn't teach you, that a mentor didn't teach you? What do you think you've learned over the years? And I know you've been asked probably many versions of this, but what have you learned that no schooling could ever teach you? Like, what's probably many things, but is there one that's a little bit ahead of the rest as far as what you developed, what you learned, Laura, along the way that you had to experience it is the only way you'd find out?
The experience that I find very profound right now in my life, after having done it for many, many years, which I didn't understand when I was younger, was the instrument. And so many acting disciplines talk about the instrument. And what I realized and what I actually felt viscerally after a decade and a half, 2 decades, was this very amazing reaction that the body has to input of information. Now, I'd always felt like I could use my imagination. I had technique that I could fill in, that I could build a bridge between myself and the character, and also what are the human events of this piece, and how can I serve the human events of this piece. But the physiological reaction to certain information has been really remarkable to me. For instance, I did this piece where I worked on it for about maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks. And there was a city that I was talking about in this piece that was an extremely dangerous place for me. And for about 2 years after I did that piece, every time I heard the name of that city, I would get this rush and this flutter in my body, in my heart. Like I would start to become nervous. And I just thought, this is an amazing thing. And this is and I'm sure that there are people who are born with this. And I'm sure I had a little bit of it throughout my younger career. But now, as the instrument gets honed and toned, it is automatic. And it's not something that you can just completely release. It's kind of within the subconscious. And I've had other experiences like that as well. There's a moment that we talked about in Saving Grace, and it's mentioned only a few times in the series, maybe in the first season, where they talk about this picture that was on the front page of the paper of Holly Hunter's character carrying a child outside, carrying a child from the Oklahoma City bombing.
Yeah.
And several years after I finished that piece, someone was talking, it must have been an anniversary or something, and that made up picture, the picture that I had made in my mind of that front page, flashed in my mind. And I had to say, no, Laura, that's something that you made up in your
Right.
mind in preparation for this character. So things like that the instrument of our body, our minds, our subconscious, our emotions, has been really fascinating journey.
Yeah, and I've never thought about that. It's such a great point that you're bringing up. Like, I never thought about that particular, and a non-actor would never see it that way. Like, I would never understand that until you just explained it, right? So that's very well said. So Dad works at a paper mill.
Mhm.
Mom, when she's not ringing the cowbell for you guys to get home, right? She's
Yeah.
were they super supportive of you? Because this is a question I ask a lot to actors, and I feel like sometimes I get sad by the answer because I feel like when their parents are supportive, like that's great. And I also get when parents aren't because they want them to get a stable, concrete. I get it. How are your parents in reaction to what you wanted to do with your life, Laura?
Well, I think they were very supportive for not understanding anything at all about the business. And I have younger members of my family now who have decided to go into the business, and I can really advise their parents and say things like, look, it's okay that, your son or daughter does this play for free because that's part of the experience bank account. It's not the way you fulfilled your career. It's not the trajectory. This is a different trajectory. And there was nobody helping my parents with that and understanding that. And it's a supremely difficult business to make a living. And I think for all that, they were extremely supportive.
Yeah, and considering that, you've been so successful for so long, like that is almost unheard of, like what you've done with your life, right? And I don't know, how long did you miss with because I think you stepped away for a bit with the birth of Mason. Do I have that correct? Did you step away from acting
Um,
for a little bit?
well, he was about 4 or 5 months old when we did the first pilot of Just Shoot Me.
Oh, okay.
So not for very long.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
But that's still to go from from soap operas to All My Children to where you are, it's pretty
Mhm,
impressive. So I wanted to ask you about some people in your life, right?
mhm,
What makes George Segal, who was nominated for
right.
Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf Academy Award, wonderful man, wonderful actor. What makes him so special to you?
Um, George was a wonderful person who was so he was so curious about people, and he was so available to people that he loved, and he was so amazingly appreciative of joy and funny and specific and foibles and um, humanness and things that make people unique from each other.
Right.
And so he celebrated you, people, his friends, his coworkers, in a way that felt so warm and loving. Everybody who I know who has worked with George has talked about the benediction of his laugh.
Mm,
That when he laughed at something that you did because it was, your timing was good or it was well executed. You could hear it from every corner of a soundstage. And that
Yeah.
was everyone has felt, certainly everyone on Just Shoot Me, we all felt that love from him resonating through the stage. Yeah, and it
Yeah.
was like a benediction.
Yeah, yeah, and he just recently passed too, right? 2020, I think he passed. Yeah, and when people talk like that about you after you've passed, I think it's very telling on what kind of human being you were, right? Even for those that didn't know, like I can picture what kind of person he is just from that description, right?
Mhm.
That's fantastic. The other thing I wanted to
There
throw in about,
was I wanna tell you one more
yeah,
thing. If there was a performance of someone that George didn't like, he would say, "It's got no smell. Got no smell." So that's what I mean by he loved the things that made a performance, a person particular, and he
yeah.
loved the foible and the humanness.
Yeah, yeah, and somebody like that, when he gives his quote unquote seal of approval, you've done something well. You've done something well. The other thing I wanted to add, Laura, about your just looking at your career from where you started to where you are now, you're never like pigeonholed into one type of role, right? You're never. I talk to actors who there's nothing wrong with it. Like they play that police officer, that angry cop from when they start to where they are now, and that's fine because they're making a living. That's great. But I feel like a couple of movies I'm going to break down with you, I really feel like you're never playing the same part twice, and I feel like that's huge, right? That's the fact that you can have that, you can be so eclectic. That's a good thing, right, for an actor.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, in a certain sense, how much control do we really have? You have to be able to get in the room and show people what you can do, and it has to jive with their perception of that role. So it's a there's so much gamble involved in it, and trust. So yeah, I mean, I feel like I've been pretty lucky that I've gotten to do the things that I do.
Right, 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 and well deserving. So one of the things I was kind of thinking about was, I'm going to touch on Pretty Woman here in a moment, but you were nominated for Best Supporting Actor for Sex Lies and Videotape, fantastic movie. And Julia Roberts ends up winning for Steel Magnolias that year. Have you guys ever? I mean, early on when that happened, did you ever talk about that moment? Because what a coincidence, right? Because that's got to be right before Pretty Woman, right? It's got to be a hair before that. So an honor to be nominated, right? And she wins, and it's kind of acknowledgement that you're both just these two wonderful actors who end up soaring in Pretty Woman, right? I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I thought that was
Mhm.
just kind of irony at its best.
Yeah, I think we'd already filmed Pretty Woman by that point of those Golden Globes. Um, so yeah, it was just great. We were just jamming. We were just doing our thing.
Yeah, and I hate the fact that you weren't nominated for an Academy Award that year. I mean, I don't like how that works, right? So here she is with this phenomenal performance, but it's not. It doesn't. I mean, I think 3 of the 5 people went over to the Academy to be nominated for an Academy Award. That makes no sense to me. I don't understand it. I don't know. I felt like you were a bit ripped off in that regard, but what do
Well,
I know?
that's very sweet.
Yeah,
Those things are just what they are, and
yeah.
it's just the way it is.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
between Pretty Woman and Quigley, right? I feel one release date is October 17th, the other is in mid March. Was it a hectic time between those two, Laura, filming? I'm looking at this, I'm like, how's she doing this? Like, she's Pretty Woman, you're all in on, and then you're Quigley. Pretty Woman was first, right, to be filmed,
Yes,
and then
yes.
quick, and then off to Australia. So, talk about that period of time. Just before we get into the movies themselves, I feel like, I mean, that's a lot going on, right?
Yeah, it was really tumbly, a couple of years, and I was coming off of, a time period where I still felt like you're just really lucky to be working, and so pretty much everything that came my way at that time, I wanted to do because I wanted to be working. I felt so lucky to be able to work. And so it was a pretty busy couple of years, and I didn't have a real clear idea of, oh, like I need to have a plan or something. I never really felt that way about my career. I just wanted to work and sort of gamble that the fates are going to bring me what I need to do. And also, I get pretty hooked into a character pretty fast. And so I start to fall in love with that character pretty fast when I start to work on it. So I just tumbled through a bunch of work for a couple of years. Vital Signs and Pretty Woman and Quigley and Once Around, and
Jeez.
I can't remember what happened after that, maybe. And then I started to get a little shaky. So much work so right after each other. And you it's interesting because actors will talk about that more now than maybe we did then, because you're just supposed to be really appreciative. But I hear a little bit more now, people saying, I need to step back. Because if all you've done is work and create, and you've got that thing going on that I talked about before, where you have all these triggers in your
Right.
subconscious and your body from all these things that you have made real to yourself, because this is what you do, then you've got a lot of messages pouring into your body that you've created that are not really, let's say, essentially who you are. So a little bit one gets lost in that tumble of characters that you've created in this tumble of work and getting up 4 o'clock in the morning and having everything you do recorded. That's also another pressure,
Mm.
another stressor of being successful and having those opportunities. So then I started to feel like, "Ugh, need to pull back."
Yeah, I mean, it, and as it applies to Pretty Woman, may we all have be lucky to have a friend like Kit DeLuca who just tells us what we need to hear, right? Just as honest, as straight up. Boy, I wish I had more friends like her growing up, right? Just doesn't BS. How close is she to who you really are in the regards of, just because you strike me as somebody that's very honest, like you don't BS. This is who I am. This is how I feel. In that regard, as far as the honesty portion, are you guys alike?
Hmm. It's been so long that I have to say that I guess there are some parts of myself that are amplified in that role. I mean,
Yeah.
certainly there was a lot of joy for the darkness of the overall material. There was a lot of joy there and a lot of fun, and it was certainly super fun to make with Gary and Julia, and the collaboration of people, and the collaboration and the people around Gary are very warm and familiar and um, loving and supportive. So I would say that, probably my more punkier self is
Yeah.
sort of like that.
Yeah, yeah, and Gary, another person who you hold in very high regard, right? I mean,
Mhm,
he's another guy that means the world to you. Is you told me earlier about what makes him so, because I've heard other actors talk fondly of him, like he's
mhm.
just this sincere, wonderful, sweet man. What's your experience with him, Laura?
One of the greatest gifts that Gary gave me was to trust me.
Mm,
And if you look at his sort of stable of actors that he's cast in his TV and film, it's a wonderful stable of people who are warm and giving and extremely funny. And the greatest gift that he gave me was to trust me by saying, "Okay, do something funny here." Like, say something funny. Okay, rolling. And that kind of trust brought me so much joy and nerves, but mostly joy, because I just had to think fast and move quick and follow my instincts. And that was a really lovely experience.
Laura, is it like an improv, like, or an ad lib, like, hey, just go with it? Is that the kind
Yeah, just really like, say something about Cinderella here. Oh, Cinderfudge.
Yeah. Yeah, and those are the moments I'm starting to I'm trying to process, I try to learn on every interview. I'm starting to figure that those are the moments that make the script is very important. I'm not saying that. But it's those unplanned moments, I feel like, Laura, that really hit home with a lot of people. I mean, I don't know, and those directors that hold strict to, this is the script, it's my way or the highway. Those are the ones that are just pumping out that same old, I don't know, no imagination kind of. I don't know. Is that, do I have that down somewhat?
Yeah, I mean I was just out to dinner the other night, and someone was talking about someone who scooted up on the counter and breathed on the counter like I did in Pretty Woman, and that was just because the atmosphere was so loosey goosey, and Gary was so trusting of me that in that moment I'm at this counter and my elbows are kind of high, and then all of a sudden I'm just lifting myself up and going over and breathing on the counter. I mean, it's not scripted. It's just that you're flowing. You're in the flow of move and groove and be funny, do something here. Okay, rolling. Your wheels are just always working. And it's in that allowance that all these really organic, and as George would say, same thing as George is talking about, that humanness, that individual spark is
That
allowed.
smell. Yeah.
The smell is just allowed to permeate the moment.
Yeah, that's really well said. Yeah, and speaking of script, I'm so glad that they didn't go. I mean, because this script was, had so many changes. It was supposed to be dark, then it was. I'm just so happy it turned out the way it did. Like, I'm so happy they didn't go the dark, because it wasn't the. I don't know. I don't think that would have hit with many if it went the dark road. I don't know. I feel like that's been done a lot before. Where Pretty Woman is just so original in how it came out. I do want to tell you, you are the. Oh, and by the way, I wanted to say this too. I'm going to get into Quigley. Are you? Because I know James, you've mentioned this before. James Spader basically said to you, "Listen, enjoy the part of acting where you get to travel a lot. You get to kind of go place to place." So there's another thing. Yeah. So are you able to? Because we're going to dive into Quigley. Are you able to enjoy Australia? Because again, the pressures of shooting and getting something down. My God, like, you're not thinking about leisure at this point. You're always about getting this thing done right. Are you able to enjoy that beautiful, beautiful place?
Yeah, a little bit. I was a little bit. I got to work on set with Aboriginal groups and the professional dancers and troops that were there, and the kids that were there, and the people that were there. And so I feel like I experienced it as much as I could, and certainly each place has its own kind of feeling and vibration and affects you differently. And so I was really lucky to be able to experience that.
Yeah, yeah, and you are so terrific in this. And do we really need did Cora really need to be called crazy? Like, I feel like she went through a lot in her life, right?
Yeah,
Loss
yeah.
of it. I mean, that doesn't make someone crazy. That makes them heroic, right?
Yeah. I mean, that was people's perception of her
Yeah,
because of the way she talked and the references that she made and how she protected herself from reality.
yeah,
So I guess that was a descriptor.
yeah. And I have to say, my father and I, had he been here today, we bonded to this movie so much. It really, and that's the one thing about being an actor, like, you strike a chord with people, maybe in places you don't think you do, right? But I could tell you, if he knew I was speaking with you today, he would have been awfully happy to know that. So thank you for that. And I have to say, I reached out to you. This has been up here for a while. If this doesn't happen often,
I see it. I see it behind you.
I never ever can ever say, "Hey, she's that one." Right. So, and this is an original poster. It's not a reproduction. This has been here forever. So, it's always nice to have an actor whose work you admire, and And you back up what you say during the interview. So I just wanted to say that.
Literally back it
Yes,
up.
you back
Literally.
it up. So just it is in this movie, right? Because you get to work with an 18-year-old Ben Mendelsohn, right? So the more I look at this movie, but it's got such an awesome cast. Alan Rickman, who, I mean, his work in Harry Potter makes me cry almost talking about it. This movie, people call it cult classic. I don't like that term. I feel like it minimizes how great it is. I feel like this is an underrated, underappreciated movie overall, but those that have seen it are absolutely in love with it. Do you get that reaction from fans and people that you know?
Yeah, people who love it and have seen it a lot. And yeah, people are very enthusiastic about it, and it's got a lot of different elements, and it was, really special in its way.
Yeah. And do you find that you're learning over time, especially with actors like Selick and Alan Rickman, those moments that you have even as a younger actor? I mean, I don't care what profession you're in, acting, teaching, whatever. I mean, you can always learn from others. Did you find that you were that type of person early on, especially with actors of this caliber?
Yeah, look how what James Spader said to me and how it affected me.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, it was, that was something that he said that really stuck out to me. So, yes, I feel like I'm always trying to absorb what others are saying and what they're doing.
Yeah, it's just I have a daughter who's a year and a half, and boy, would I can't wait to bond with her watching this movie and watching you kick ass on
Wow.
screen. So
Wow.
yeah, but I do want to get to some of your more recent work. A couple more questions for you. Thank you for all this time.
Yeah.
How effing good is Honey Boy? So
Wow.
underrated. I'm telling you, like everyone that I know that talks shop recognizes this is one of the best movies of the last 5 to 10 years. It's so honest. It's so wonderful. And again, you're in a role that you normally, again, this is different. This is changing. And talk about your experiences with this, because I absolutely adore this movie.
Well, Alma is just really fucking brilliant, right? She's a beautiful, really sensitive, she really paints a portrait, and it was lovely to work with her. I did all my scenes in one day, so I didn't really have an experience of the whole film. I can't really speak to that. I can just speak to working with her and trying to serve, that is a very particular kind of role where you are serving the narrative. And I just had a lovely long day just doing that.
And when you saw the way the film unfolded, the way the final copy looked, you must have been thrilled that you were part of such a wonderful project.
Oh God, yes. Really, really courageous. And I really thought his writing was really good.
He's a really underrated guy. Like, I don't care. Like, he's got his own issues. Listen, we all have our own issues, okay? But as an actor, this man is as talented as they come.
Yes, scenes are amazing.
To put himself out there like this, and your character deals with the PTSD, right? Your character is one dealing, making that diagnosis, but that's actually Shia's real life. Like, that's what he came to find out. He has PTSD, so your character hits home with him. I would have to imagine, right? I mean, putting yourself. I have two left for you. The other one is Miami Vice. You should be getting asked on this more, because Leap of Faith, which is the second to the last episode of the show, of the entire show. What a great underrated show. You talk about nostalgia and the vintageness of it. Yeah. Miami Vice is right there. I could not talk to you and not bring that up, Laura. I'm not going to I can't let that go. Do you find that people are like me, where they bring up obscure things from your filmography that they really appreciate, that you're like, oh my God, I haven't heard about, is it kind of a walk down memory lane for you sometimes?
Sometimes. Yes, it is.
And now with Netflix and all these other streaming services, people don't, there's so many shows. Have you seen this show? It's 1,000 of them. But at the time you're doing Miami Vice, it's the biggest show on the planet, and there's not even a close second. That's it. It was Miami Vice. Everybody's watching Miami Vice. Now everybody can be watching. If I go down my street, everybody could be watching a totally different thing. But when this was out, is it different? Do you think that changes? Does does it change the dynamic of the way TV is seen, Laura? So that the big three, CBS, ABC, NBC versus now everything. I get it's better for actors because there's more opportunity. I get it and I love it. But do you think it changes the scope of things where, maybe 20, 30 years ago it was everyone's all in on this? Does that make any sense?
Well, it changes the world in that when people talk about things, TV from the late 60s, 70s, and 80s, we're all talking about the same thing. We're talking about a moment in time where everyone rushed home to see the thing. And I remember very clearly various moments in my life where people were rushing home to see the thing and everyone saw the thing. So we all came together in this moment of a piece of entertainment that mirrored for us something in our lives, whether it was adventure or sadness or war or just the lives of these characters. And we're not all, as you're saying, we're not all on that same page anymore. Maybe it's more bigger impact, world impact things that we are now all tuning in together. But we're not all watching the same pieces of drama anymore that are created by writers and actors.
Yeah.
We're all tuning in for the moments when Ukraine is being bombed.
Yeah.
So it's not the last episode of MASH or Michael Jackson is going to do something incredible, and it's the moonwalk, the first moonwalk. So like,
there's a sadness in that for me, like, because you look back at those times, right? You're right. It's a nostalgic piece. And this is a super unfair question, but when you look back at your own filmography, is there a piece that stands out more than the rest? I mean, you've done so much, so this is an obnoxiously unfair question. If you tell me to shut up, I certainly will. But is there one that you look at that you're in love with, that I mean, I'm sure you love all your work because there's a lot to love here, but is there one that stands out for you, Laura?
Well, there's moments from each of them that are still so present, and I certainly haven't seen anything at all. I never watch anything after it comes out, so they're really, really distant. But there are moments that I remember shooting that were really poignant to me, or goofy, or funny, or lovely about each piece that I've worked on. Almost all of them. Some of them have faded, but there are some really specific things about each of them that I remember shooting that are really special to me, like a chapter in my book, and things that directors have said to me that have been really meaningful. And then I'm sure that I've candy coated in my memory some things and over dramatized other things. So, but my mind has these little markers, like chapters, where I could go back and remember certain moments. Like I remember walking with the camera sort of on the floor in Sex Lives and walking, and it's a shot of my feet. And I remember Stephen saying to me, "Play with your bracelet when you say that." And I remember Gary saying, say something funny here about Cinderella. And I remember moments with Holly in Once Around and with Lhasa, and his direction would be, you're all around the table and you're 3 bottles of wine in. That is my direction. 3 bottles of wine and action. So all of these little moments that are sort of pop, like this very sour sweet candy that sort of pop to my memory, and those are all, and moments in Quigley too, just thinking and staring and remembering in her mind, in the character's mind. So
Yeah, I love your character in Quigley. I love her. I think she's a firecracker, and she's one of the more legendary ones. But I like your answer because I see things from your filmography. Like I love when I look at your projects, I'm like, you know, I have my own moments of like Quigley, like with my dad, like that's what it means to me, or Pretty Woman with a date or something. You know, it's but you look at it from the inside, which is I never really even thought of that either. Like you're looking at specific moments on specific movies. That is such a great answer, Laura. I never would have thought of it that way. And only an actor would see it that way. I couldn't see it like that from the outside.
wow.
I'll leave with this. I'm going to say Just Shoot Me is perhaps one of the more underrated shows of all time. You guys had a very cool reunion, which is on YouTube, which I watched. It was like a conference call. You remember?
Oh,
Was, yeah. So it was just a fun watch, and I really thought an underappreciated show, funny as hell, just a great show that I wish lasted longer. I wish they had more life in it because I loved it. I just think it was a phenomenal show, and you must have nothing but positive experiences from that.
Oh, we had so much fun. There was like laughing gas sometimes around that conference table in the bullpen. It was just it was really a beautiful experience for all of us. I think I can speak for everyone. We had all had a modicum of success, and we were at a point in our lives where we could really appreciate if this happens, we know this is lightning in a bottle. And so there was great appreciation for each other, and also what a cast, that you could any one of those people could carry a show. So it was like a lovely time.
And on a show like that, because you have so many veterans that just are great at their craft, do you find like the stress level's a little bit lower, right? People aren't pressing. You have enough veteran actors where you can just trust their instincts. You can trust what they're going to do. You know, some sets I would imagine are there's a lot of money involved. It's let's get this done quickly. Let's get it done right. You know, is this kind of a calming? I don't want to say soothing. It's over the top. Is this a more relaxed atmosphere?
I think for us, for the cast, yes. I think
okay.
there's always so much pressure on the producers, and they're always trying to find funnier. And so they have their own stress level built in, and we need to respond to that. But as far as the cast goes, and certainly some of the producers and Pam Fryman, who was the director, and all of that was just a really, really lovely experience.
Yeah, that's well said. Anything ahead you wanted to throw out there? Anything that you have coming up? You're always doing something. You're as a working actor, it's unbelievable. You have not slowed down in the least.
I'm really I'm really proud, and I had a great time doing some episodes of Barry for this season, and so that was just a lovely time working with Bill and Mr. Henry Winkler. It was so fun, and what a beautiful atmosphere they have on that set. So that was just lovely to pop in there and do some episodes for them. And then I always pop up to NCIS and hang out with those guys.
Yep.
And do a little therapy with them. So that's fun too.
Yeah, and Bill Hader seems like one of those guys that what you see is what you get, right? Like I don't know him. I see him from Saturday Night Live and other work he's done. He seems like this great guy, but from behind the scenes, he seems like he's that same guy. Like he's such a good man.
He's so delighted by the funny that he will just be over in Video Village just laughing. He will come up to the actors after a take, like tears are flowing down his face because he's laughing so hard. And there's nothing like that kind of joy. He has so much joy that he really just spreads when things are funny. He is like an 8-year-old. It's really fun. It's really fun to be around.
And that is so awesome to hear. And, as an actor, I always think actors touch people's lives in different ways with different projects. You certainly have done that with many of yours, with my father, myself. And I can't thank you enough for all your work and all the memories you've created on this end of the microphone. So thank you for that, Laura. And thank you for coming on the podcast today.
Thank you so much. That's so sweet of you. Thanks so much.
Thank you for listening to Derek Thomas and Monday Morning Critic Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, you can also connect with Monday Morning Critic on Instagram and Facebook, MDM Critic on Twitter, subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever podcasts are found. All episodes available, www.mmcpodcast.com.